Hey everyone, I'm Tony Garcia here with the Cozy Book Nook. I am here with author Tim Smith, and today we're going to talk about some of his books, his writing methods, and his upcoming book signing event. So let's get into it. Tim, thank you for joining me. How are
Thank
you doing
you.
today?
Good. And I want to congratulate you on your new store.
Thank you. We had our first, I guess, we've had a couple soft opening events, but we're still waiting to have some grand opening and stuff. But we're just so excited. We're so excited. We got four authors or three authors set up for book signings this month. We already got I talked today. I got two for next month already, and then one duo for August. So we're just so excited that we're doing this. We're excited about having a bookstore. We're excited about getting a lot of the indie authors, a lot of the authors in here. I think you're traditional published too.
Yes.
Yeah. So every time I say like indie authors, I'm like, oh, Tim's also traditional. So I gotta make sure I do both because we want all authors in here. It's just a lot of times when it comes to like traditional authors, sometimes it's hard to get them in because you get a lot of times with a publisher and they're always kind of
No, my publisher is very easy to work with.
good.
And I'm pretty much. I mean, any books that I bring in here to,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the book dealer. Okay.
Nice. I love
So
it. I
yeah.
love it.
So I get it from them and at a cut rate, and then we work out the details
That's what you
here.
want.
So
And that's the dream, honestly, is
yeah.
as an author and an artist to be in complete control of your works. I think
Hmm.
is an important role. Um, but yeah, so let's talk a little bit about
Sure.
maybe your writing journey. So
Hmm.
you started off by mostly doing mystery, correct?
That's
What kind of
correct.
got you into writing? What was the starting process of that?
Well, I had an interest in writing since probably junior high or so, and then I didn't do anything about it for many years until about 25 years ago, 25, 26 years ago. Some life changes come out, and I've had some time on my hands, and I thought, well, I had this idea for this character I wanted to do, a former spy who was living in the Florida Keys and trying to
Nice.
walking away from a personal tragedy and trying to stay out of trouble and always getting pulled in. Got to a point where I said, I was telling myself, well, either write the damn thing or stop talking about it, because
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I was always like, oh, someday I'm going to write this book. I said, well, why just do it? Sit down and do it. What really inspired me to write um, mystery thrillers started, and that's one series. And the other has a private eye bent to it. Is watching old movies on TV when I was a kid
Mm-hmm.
in Cleveland. Um, Seeing the old Bogart and Alan Ladd movies from the 40s and 50s, and the Private Eye, and the black and white and film noir and stuff.
Yeah.
I became a real fan of those. Those are still
Yeah.
my favorite
Yeah.
genre of movies, era of movies to look at. But usually, if I would see one of those films, and if I knew it was based on a book, I go to the library, find it, read it, and that's how I got through the entire collection of Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett and James M. Cain and Mickey
Wow.
Spillane. I just started. I just like okay, and then got to a point later. I said, yeah, I'd like to write something like this one day. Well, then I did.
Very nice. Now, are you a prolific reader? Do you like to read a lot on the side? Or?
I do, but not when I'm actively developing a story.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I pretty much um, put my Nelson DeMille, Robert B. Parker books off to the side when I'm developing a story, because I don't want to read something of theirs that say, hey, it's pretty good, and then 6 months later I read my manuscript. So wait a minute, no, Donald Lee Westlake wrote that. I didn't write that.
Yeah,
So
I get it. I get it.
yeah.
But in between books and stuff, is there time between books with you, or do you pretty much like jump from like one story to another?
I tend to take a little break afterwards. Like right now, I just 2 months ago released my 30th book, number 9 of the spy series, called One Way Out, available with booksellers everywhere. Put a little plug there, and it'll be available here when I come to do your signing in a few weeks. But what I've been doing the last couple of months is been promotional things, work for this and blogs, interviews, things like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's taking up most of my time and scheduling things. So
one thing you kind of learn as an author, you kind of have to be your own marketing specialist, salesperson,
Do
and
it all.
writer,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
How do you find that side? Like as far as like getting out there and doing the blogs and doing the interviews and doing the pushing that from the time you started to now. How comfortable are you like getting out there and self promoting?
I'm very comfortable with it because after this many books and 22 years in doing this, I've developed a nice network of bloggers out there, and even when I don't have a book to promote, sometimes they'll reach out to me and say, "Hey, really enjoyed this thing you did last year. I got an opening in 2 weeks. Somebody bailed on me. Do you want to step in and
Love it.
give
Yeah.
us a blog piece on genres or dialogue or whatever?" So, yeah, that's fine. Plus, I do 2 or 3 blogs every month anyway that I'm regularly scheduled for.
Okay.
So, but I enjoy doing that. And I've done enough publicity stuff. I know who's good and who's not going to, rip me off. And this last couple of times, a couple of books I did a blog tour with a company, and she did really well with me.
Yeah.
Over the course of 2 weeks, she had me scheduled for like 42 different
Oh wow.
blogs. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and
Definitely time.
yeah, but all the heavy lifting I had to do was the 2 weeks before that was to get her all the stuff in writing that she wanted, because it's like, okay, now I'm sending this to you. You figure out what your bloggers want. You know what they want,
Right.
and answer some interview questions, and here's some excerpts, and here's a little backstory, and here's some illustrations and whatever. Just go.
And we have a lot of like up and coming like authors that are just real big. They're introverts. They struggle with going out and networking, promoting their book and things like that. It seems to me like doing blogs might be a good way to get to get their name out there without necessarily having to interact in public. Any recommendations as far as like how do you get started in that? Like, is there a certain like certain kind of blogs they should be focusing on? Things like that? Or?
Well, I think it depends on what genre you're right. And if you're writing like say romance, well, there's a million and one blogs out there that are devoted to that. If you have another niche like sci-fi or horror or paranormal or whatever historical, I mean there's a niche blog out there. Since I write romantic mystery thrillers or mystery thrillers with a little romantic touch in there, it kind of leaves it open to just about anybody,
Okay, very good. Yeah, because like I said, a lot of them struggle just being in front of people, but to go out and just kind of communicate with them without actually having to be there in person might be a good way to kind of promote your book. Let's talk about the romance a little bit. So you you did the mystery and the thrillers. I know as a male writer, I struggle with the romance. I was in Marines, and it's very hard for me to like write like something like emotional. How did you kind of get into that, and what's kind of some of your methods on being able to do that?
Well, I got first of all, my first 3 novels were in this series, this spy series with a different publisher, and when I got out of that, I decided I didn't like the way things were going, and I said, well, I'm going to switch. I'm going to find someplace better to work, somebody better to work for.
Yeah.
Which I did. I found, and I've been with them for many years now. But I decided, well, I'm going to see about doing a romance told primarily from the man's point of view.
Yeah.
I did it because it'd never been done. Not a straight romance anyway. Male, yes, but not male female. So did that, and it was to see if it would work. It did, and luckily I had some people who were not shy about looking at it and saying, well, you didn't get this right. So okay, that's fine. But I mean the mystery thrillers and the private eye books that I write are pretty much mystery thrillers and adventures and stuff, but there is a little romantic overtone in there. I mean, you got this leading man. He's got to have somebody to interact with, and in the Dick 7 series down to Florida Keys, it's him and a former coworker that he used to work with. Then she's living with him there. She was a spy too, so they've got somebody for them to bounce off each other.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. Is there do you have anybody that maybe um, that's into romance that kind of helps you go to that, or do you just kind of like naturally got more comfortable with it as you wrote?
Well, I got more comfortable with it by this point. At first, I had one or two people that I would send them a passage and I say, "Hey, would you look this over? Here's one and see what you think."
Yeah,
And they would either give me a thumbs up or down on it and say, "Well, yeah, you got this right," or "No, that's not realistic." I said, "Okay, fine. What did
yeah,
I do wrong? You
right,
know, so tell
yeah.
me."
So you can kind of modify it, and
Yeah.
kind of learning experience. Yeah, I think that's something that if you're an upcoming author, if you're trying to write a book and you're male trying to write romance, I think that's definitely probably a good tip. Find somebody to kind of critique your scenes, so they kind of come across as believable. Because I grew up with James Bond,
Oh
some
yeah.
very
Yeah.
unrealistic aspects of the romance in there. It's like you can't just walk up somebody and order your martini, and then all of a sudden every woman just kind of swoons over.
Yes, that
Uh,
was I don't back in the 50s and 60s that was
right,
that was
norm,
okay,
yeah.
but it's like
Especially
oh.
nowadays when people expect more complex characters.
Hmm.
They want characters that are more flawed, that struggle with relationships, that struggle to find love. So it's I think it's definitely the writing and those genres are kind of elevated in the sense that people no longer are happy with just hey, how you doing, instant love, and then
Hmm.
off and running. Where now you have that kind of conflict in there. So he will be here on June 22nd.
Yes.
It's a Saturday from 1 to 3. He will have his books here. Now, did we decide on like which book you want to do a book club with, or
No, we hadn't
gonna,
decided.
we're
So
gonna see which one sells
see
the
what.
most of?
Yeah, I think so. What the
Yeah,
ones
so you
people.
guys can decide which ones we're going to do a book club on. Because one of the cool things we're going to be doing here at the Cozy Book Nook is not just having a book signing where an author comes in, sits around for a couple hours, and signs books for anybody who walks in. We want it to be an actual fun event. Tim's going to be here to answer questions, talk about his books, and then, of course, whatever books we sell a good quantity of. We're going to clump you guys together to get into a book club over the next 8 to 13 weeks, and then Tim will actually come back or do it virtually, do a Q&A over the book where he'll answer questions that you may have with the characters. You get to tell him what you liked and what you didn't like, a little bit of intrigue, and also be an opportunity to ask some questions on where if it's a series where the characters are going in the future. So our concept is to really get authors and readers together to where you kind of build this relationship and build this kind of network. So we're really excited about that. So do you have the first mystery ones? You had a specific character.
Yes.
Um, did you carry on with that same character, or
Yes, I did. In fact, the last three books that I've released have been in that same series with the former CIA spy named Nick Seven. It was down in Key Largo, Florida, which gives me a great excuse to go down there and do
do
research.
research?
Yeah,
Yeah.
do real research, get that atmosphere, that everybody's. It seems to have paid off because I really get compliments. People saying, I was reading this, I felt like I was standing right next to
Yeah,
that character,
yeah.
watching that sunset over the. Oh, that's really good. That I did my job.
Exactly.
That was successful. But no, that was the main character I started with, and I've done nine books with
Mhm.
him, and people like it. They like the two characters in there, and the nice interplay they have. And you're talking about romance and writing relationships and things from a man's point of view. I really didn't when I created that Nick Seven character. I wanted him to have a female in there. He needed a teammate, kind of, if you call it that. So I brought in the former coworker. They used to work together in the CIA, and she was living in. She'd gone back to Barbados, so we got this interracial thing going here,
Okay.
and she's it's kind of funny because she's got the West Indies accent, but she's very smart, very tough, and Felicia can kick butt with the best of them. And this is the way I wrote that character because I did not want a damsel in distress that he had to rescue at every story. It's like no. So they back each other up and bounce ideas off each other, and he's got a nice bar on the Gulf of Mexico down the Key Largo, and Yes, that came straight out of Casablanca. Sorry, I own up to that. Um, but it so it's been fun writing that relationship. But then the other series that I began to try, did so many books with that, and I've written some romantic comedies, some shorts for my publisher, like Summer Beach Reads, Christmas stocking stuffer type things, that were romantic comedies and with different characters. Then I wanted to do something different, so I decided, well, I'm going to write this private eye character who's a former cop, got wounded on the job. Now he's private eye, does insurance investigations, whatever. And I was trying to think, where am I going to place this guy? And I thought, well, I don't want to go have another Florida thing. I got that locked up. I don't want to do something cliched like New York or LA or San Francisco, whatever. Well, I come from the Cleveland area, and I was up there on vacation one long weekend and staying in Sandusky, Ohio, and it's right near the Lake Erie Islands and everything. I was sitting there at night, watching the sunset over Marblehead Peninsula, and it's shining off the lake and everything. That hit me. I thought, well, this is plenty of atmosphere up here. Why not just set his stories in Sandusky, Ohio? So there
And
we go.
Sandusky, Ohio is actually, it's got a lot of interesting history.
It
So I
does.
think that's a very good place to stick a complex character.
Yeah.
Because that whole just little cow kind of blends together with that kind of character. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're right. So your writing method, do you tend to do you have yourself on like a writing schedule, or do you write when the inspiration hits, or what's kind of your writing method?
Pretty much I have to be in the right mood
Hmm.
to I mean, I know there's some writers that they'll start out in the morning, and I'm not working. I'm retired, so I get to work from home, and I'm just a full time writer, and I do editing and blogging, newspaper reporting, that kind of stuff. So all I do is write, among other things. But I know some they'll sit down and say, okay, well, clock is running. I have to crank out 5,000 words today. I don't do that many probably in a week.
Right,
And
right.
it's like the mood has to strike me. I have to be in the right frame of mind, and or if I'm really into a story, I'll think, okay, well, yeah, I want to go back and really get cranking on this today and fix some of these things from yesterday, pick up where I left off, and and forge ahead.
Okay, very nice. So if you were to like come across like a young writer today and he was like interested in writing same kind of genres, what would be some like tips you'd give him as far as like developing a character, or mystery and thrillers are difficult. Like my first book was a mystery. It took me 10 years to write. One thing I noticed, it only takes place over 3 days, but there's just so much tracking on wherever he was, what clues were left. Um, Writing thriller and suspense is actually pretty difficult. You got to keep track of like
Mm-hmm.
you can't say something happened over here and then switch it around. All of a sudden,
Right.
over here doesn't make any sense. So when somebody's like maybe plotting an action or a thriller, uh, mystery, what were some tips maybe you can give to kind of like help keep track of consistency?
Yeah. Okay. Well, taking notes is always a good idea.
Mhm.
Um, I don't when I write, I don't sit down and plot out the entire story on a legal pad or whatever and refer to it like some people do that religiously. You have to stick with. It's like, no, I just do that. I've got an idea in my head, and it's like we just move forward with it. But as far as the consistency goes, keep track of certain things in there. If you reference something in chapter 4 and you're going to bring it up again in chapter 12, realize in those 8 chapters, somebody may have forgotten what you were talking about.
Right, right.
So it'd be
Yes.
nice to drop a little hint in there. So just remind people, oh, yeah, this character did pop up. Now he's here again, or something, even if it's a minor point. What I do that helps me is when I was talking about my love of old movies. When I'm writing one of these action scenes, it's playing out in my mind like it's on a movie screen,
Yeah, yeah.
and just like, oh, okay, I saw something like this in a Clint Eastwood movie or a Burt Reynolds movie or something, or on you know,
Yeah.
NCIS or something. I thought, how did they do that? Okay, yeah. How detailed do I want to get with this
Mhm.
fist fight or gunfight or shootout or car chase or whatever?
Yeah, that's another area that's kind of difficult to write is action scenes. And that's
Yeah.
something that you go into too much detail. Like I have a martial arts background, so if I go too much in detail using terminology that people don't
Uh-huh.
even understand unless they study themselves, it can almost confusing. Whereas if it's too vague, then people are kind of like, what's going on? Are they fighting or
Right.
having a conversation? But yeah, so I think you pretty much have like picked like the hardest genres to like put together between the mystery, the thrillers, and then put some romance in there and have an action in there. I mean, you're pretty much a glutton for punishment. It
Yeah.
seems for coming from these difficult to write
Yeah.
scenes.
And all that jammed into 220 some pages. I mean, it's who knew, no, it is, it sometimes you do have, gets a little tough, keeping track of certain things.
Yeah.
And it's been a while, but there have been times when I got too complex, and I thought it was okay, but my editor would call me on it and say, "Wait a minute, hold the phone here. You lost me."
Right.
I say, "Well, okay, let me go back and fix this." I didn't want to make it too detailed, too complex. But what you brought up about terminology stuff, that's a good point. I would tell anybody who wants to get into this or anything, if you're going to write about a specific thing, put it in terms everybody can understand. Some years ago, a good friend of mine who was a retired firefighter, fire captain in somewhere around here, he like read a couple of my books. He wrote something based on his experiences as 35 or some years as a firefighter, as a first responder. I thought, well, okay. And he asked me one of those questions I always hate to get. Say, would you mind looking over a few chapters? Well, so only because we're friends, I will do this. So I did, and I just looked it over. And went to his home, read some in there, and I made a couple of notes on the notebook. And I pointed out something. I said, okay, what is this? A certain term in here. So what is this? He looked at me like, well, duh. That's it was referring to a piece of equipment or a maneuver that the firefighters use. Well, like everybody knows that. And I said, well, I didn't know it.
Right.
I said, I said firefighter might know this. First responder would know what this is, but I never served in this line of work.
Yeah.
I said, you need to dumb it down a little bit sometimes and explain what this is so anybody can get it.
That's how you get by context. I think that's one of the things that people struggle with sci-fi. It's like you're creating a whole new science,
right?
And then if you don't explain it enough, people are completely lost on what's happening in the story because they can't follow. Same thing can happen when you're writing about, say if you're writing about like a New York cop. Having certain terminology is important so that you can be realistic. If you start going down that rabbit hole too much on nomenclatures and certain terminologies and procedures that the general public isn't even familiar with,
right?
You're going to lose a lot of readers because of that. So,
well, I find the same thing when I write atmosphere too. You travel if you're writing in different parts of you want to make it universally accessible. And if I write something about down the Florida Keys, I have to be careful because that I'm explaining what it is, because there are certain things that people say down there as far as with the fishing or the travel or the whatever it may be, and you find that in different parts of the country, regional parts or other parts of the world, that there's things that anybody who lives there or is native to that part, they're going to understand it.
Right.
Other people, it may be like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like just going south or anything else. I try to by the time my story try to keep it as big as possible too. It's like it could be any beach or any town or any scene. You let the reader kind of like superimpose, where it could be at. Because more specific you get, more difficult it can be to write yourself into a corner.
Oh yeah.
To where even if you are about a specific place, sometimes if you're incorrect about nomenclature or terminology, people will call you out. That's not how it works down there. So it's like you just got to be kind of decide how. Now, one thing like with Dean Koontz, you like do a lot of research on a particular subject. It's almost like when I was reading his books, I was learning something. But then almost at the point to where I forget what the story's about. I'm so focused on what he was like explaining some technique that he learned. So there's a lot of good information about how to work on a mystery and romance and a thriller. That's a lot of genres to mesh together. So if you are interested in those genres, definitely check out Tim's work. I mean the ability, you have certain genres like just a mystery and thriller, just in a romance. So to have those intertwined, I think it's going to lead to some very interesting stories, some complex narratives. So I'm pretty excited to get the books out there to some readers around here that may not have heard of you or read some of your work. Now's your opportunity to come out and take a look. So again, he'll be out on Saturday, June 22nd. Be from 1 to 3. Be a Saturday afternoon. I'm sorry. Yeah, 1 to 3. Yeah, 2 hours.
Right.
I'm making make sure it's not too long, but not too short. Tim will be here to talk about his work, to be able to talk about some of the stories, be the opportunity to pick his brain a little bit, get some copy of his books, and hopefully we'll get a book club going on one of these books so that he can come back and do a Q&A. I think your writing is just a very interesting, almost its own genre, which
Yeah.
I'm pretty interested. Like I love mystery myself, but I'm really, now that you kind of like even add a little more of the romance, I'm really curious to read some of these because as a writer myself, that's a part that I struggle with. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I learned quite a bit from that. So Tim, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Any last minute words of wisdom to our audience?
Yeah, just if you're going to get into adding some romance into a story like this, or any kind of a story, one, make sure it doesn't get in the way of the story. So if I have a romantic encounter in there, it's not gratuitous. It's flows with the story, and if somebody is uncomfortable with it, they can skip over it. It's not going to make any difference if
Right.
they don't read those couple of pages in there. And the other thing is, if you're going to do that, be sure that if you really think hard if you want to use your real name on that. I made that mistake 22 years ago, and I've kind of regretted it at times. Some of the stuff that's in there, somebody was like, you put your own name. I said, yeah, that was in hindsight. I should have.
Not the image you.
I should have taken two initials and a last name, a made up last name or something. That would have been better. But no, but I've been very fortunate with the success and the reviews on these, and picking a genre that is pretty much timeless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I got into this years ago, Harry Potter was the thing, so everybody was wanting to do the next Harry Potter. Well, then Twilight came along, and everybody wanted to do vampire romance, and then 50 Shades, which I couldn't get through in the first chapter of it, and some things like that. But it's like, well, but the rest of us were still writing these things, and mystery thrillers. This never go out of style.
Never go out of style.
And they're fun.
Yeah, they are. You're gonna come back to it. It's like Casablanca. It's still a movie you go back and you watch, and rewatch as time goes. It's one of those things that just story just so good, so timeless at that point. But yeah, I agree. Also, I'll have all this links in the description below to all the social, but also links to his books here, so you can pre-order any of these books before his book signing. So go ahead and head out there, pre-order one of those books so that we can get here. It's already put aside for you. We look forward to seeing all you guys visiting us. Tim, we look forward to you stopping by and meeting some of our readers. We do have more events coming up, so make sure you follow us on our social media as well. And again, Tim, thank you so much for joining me. And
thank you,
guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time. Guys, have a great night.